Let me tell you the story of a town often cited as one of the most beautiful in England, and while civic aesthetics are a common theme on this channel, the operative word in this case is England. You'll have already gleaned from the title that this was once the Welsh capital in a de facto sense, but that's in spite of it never having been located in Wales itself. So what mad chain of events led to this anomaly? Well, let's dive in. The town is Ludlow, situated about a dozen miles east of the border established in the 8th century by King Offa of Mercia, but Ludlow has pretty much no known history as an Anglo-Saxon settlement. Instead, its story begins in earnest in the late 11th century, the Normans, having recently bested the Anglo-Saxons in battle, and no, that's not an echo, sought to solidify control over the island. Wary of the Celts to the west, they established a frontier in the region surrounding the famous ditch where England ends, a region which became known as the Welsh Marches. A series of castles were built at strategic points, including one with its own natural moat in the form of the River Teme. Thus, Ludlow's recorded history began with this very castle, constructed by the de Lacy family, and at that, one of the first English castles to be upgraded from wood to stone. In its immediate vicinity, a planned development took shape, the shape in question being a grid layout. Cue the obligatory comparison to Milton Keynes, with fewer roundabouts. In 1233, during which period the Welsh had recently conducted several raids across the marches, Henry III granted the town the rights to build defensive walls funded by local taxes. One section survives to this day, namely Broadgate, situated at the southern end of the town centre. This former gatehouse, along with its dramatic portcullis arch, provides a vivid reminder of Ludlow's medieval past, even with the Georgian additions overhead, not to mention the cars travelling through sporadically in single file. But it was during the 15th century that Ludlow began to achieve major prominence in the area. To demonstrate this, let me show you something. Continuing south out of Broadgate takes us to the River Teme, which at this point serves as the boundary between Ludlow and the neighbouring village of Ludford. From said village, facing back north, what's the first thing that pops out? That would of course be the tower of the Church of St Lawrence, a 15th century addition to Ludlow's parish church. A tower that's visible from more or less the next town over, let alone village, giving it two ancillary practical historic purposes. Firstly, guiding parishioners to church on Sundays, and secondly, guiding villagers and drovers to market, which was, and very much still is, 4 days a week, held just outside the church. The earliest surviving market charter for the town dates from 1461, although there's every probability that even the Normans traded here. In 1472, around the midpoint of the Wars of the Roses, the Yorkist king Edward IV, having recently started his second reign, established the Council of Wales in the Marches, and he based it right here at Ludlow Castle. The council was a regional administrative centre in a turbulent part of Britain which had been difficult to govern from London. For added context, Wales was not a kingdom, but rather a crown principality under English rule, following the Statute of Rhuddlan in 1284 established by Edward I. The Glyndŵr rebellion of the early 15th century would have added extra weight to concerns regarding stability in the region. In short, the Welsh were never the type to go gentle into that good night. In 1473, Edward IV sent his infant son, the future King Edward V, to Ludlow Castle. Here he was raised under the supervision of his uncle, his maternal uncle, I hasten to stress. Thus the young Prince of Wales presided over Wales itself, albeit symbolically. That was until his father died in 1483, in typically vague circumstances befitting of English kings of old. The prince was taken to London for his coronation, but was intercepted in Stony Stratford by his other uncle, who decided he'd be safer in the Tower of London, and well, what happened next is still a matter of heated debate to this day. After the Wars of the Roses, Henry Tudor, having become King Henry VII, assumed control of the Council of Wales and the Marches. His eldest son, Prince Arthur, was also sent to Ludlow Castle in preparation for kingship. Arthur married Catherine of Aragon at St Paul's Cathedral in London, then returned to Ludlow and died of a mysterious illness. Wouldn't you know it? Catherine also fell sick, but recovered, and of course went on to marry Arthur's younger brother, the future King Henry VIII. Arthur's body was taken to Worcester Cathedral for interment, but he left his heart in Ludlow, and I mean literally, as it's said to have been buried separately in a lead box here in St Lawrence's Church, a powerful gesture as to what this town meant to the young Prince of Wales. The council remained headquartered here all the way until 1689, when King William III, along with his wife and joint monarch Mary II, abolished the Council of Wales and the Marches. This is likely due to it being perceived as antiquated and impractical in the Stuart era, where attacks on the England-Wales border had long since become confined to the history books. Regarding its abolition, the eminent Welsh historian John Davis claims that there was very little protest in Wales. Ludlow Castle thus became redundant and gradually fell into ruin. If you want to know what the town looked like during its tenure as de facto capital of Wales, well, there's a forest load of contemporaneous timber-framed buildings which provide more than an idea. As for Wales, it went a further 2.5 centuries with no official capital. It wasn't until 1955 that Cardiff was bestowed with the role, but the story doesn't end there. Consider the following Welsh place names. In the spirit of only connect, what do these all have in common? Well, if you're playing along at home and you've just shouted out, "They're all English," then 5 points to you. Yes, these towns and cities of the Welsh Marches each have their own distinctive name in Welsh, which in itself hints at a degree of historic cross-border familiarity. The list is far from exhaustive, but cherry-picked by me since they have something else in common. And if you've just shouted out a railway station, then 5 bonus points to you. Where am I going with this? Well, let's say you wanted to travel from South Wales to North Wales by train, or vice versa. Well, guess what? You're going via England, including, of course, Ludlow. Yes, as crazy as it sounds, there are no lines of track linking Wales from north to south, other than the fittingly named Welsh Marches line. This may be somewhat of an indignity for the Welsh nationalists, but on the flip side, English passengers have to deal with bilingual signage and train announcements in Welsh first, even in Ludlow, Shrewsbury, Hereford and the like. Now for me, this is a source of mild amusement, but for those who don't know their platform 2 from their platform die, it could mean the difference between catching a train and missing it. But that's part of the experience when travelling with Transport for Wales, who are certainly not sponsoring this video. The point is, although Ludlow is English in every sense, the Welsh connection is still tangible today, and its death, as capital of Wales, shall have no dominion. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.